Live, live, live.
Live, live, live.
Not live, live. Oh, that's too hot. I can't do this anymore.
I can't hear Evan very well. There we go. Turn that up, see if that works. He's hiding behind Matt. You're great. It's him because he's muffled by his bloody his patriotic mask. Yeah, Captain America or Captain whatever it is, USA or whatever the hell the damn thing is.
Go Team America.
That's it. Thank you. Go Team America.
You can hear me
Colonials.
now, right?
Yeah, kind of.
You can hear me now?
I gotta see you both. I can't see you both. Oh, hang on.
There
we go. Splendid. Now I got a different view. Bloody colonials and your flag waving shenanigans, I swear.
Hey, y'all started it. Y'all started it. I ain't taking the blame for this. Because you're freaking English.
That, but what a sort of loser.
Yeah.
We didn't lose. You guys cheated. It's as simple as that. You cheated.
So what all the other colonies do?
Well, they rebelled. It was slightly different. I mean, because we went in there with a flag. Like I said, we have a flag. And apparently they got wise to that. It took them a couple of 100 years to get wise to it, but they got wise to it in the end. You guys didn't really get wise to it. You ended up chucking the tea in the river and getting pissed because we were going to put more taxes on you.
Yeah, you know them taxes.
All right, speaking of taxes and colonialism and everything else, let's talk about the shit show that's happening in 3 weeks' time.
In 3 weeks? Because to me, it appears that it's happening right now.
Well, I mean, I was looking at the world news. I was going around the world news and how many people are commenting. I picked up a piece from like Uganda or somewhere. And they're like, hey, isn't the US a first world country? We queue for less time than they do to vote. And I'm like, yes.
It's bad. It's long wait times if places are open. You've got so many different campaigns about vote by mail or vote in person, or which is good. I like that they're encouraging people to get out and vote. But when I hear things like vote in person and deal with the queue because there's a higher chance that using official legal channels, your mail-in vote can be disqualified or discredited. And we know there's going to be a fight. We know there's going to be a fight.
Yeah. All right. So I can't get to the internet and do this at the same time. I was talking with somebody, and I don't remember. It might have been you. I was talking with somebody. Might have been you. And they were talking about how Texas is basically, it's one polling station per county or something like that. I'm like, no way. I mean, I'm like, there's no way they could do that. That just seems ridiculous.
Yeah.
But from what somebody was saying, that's what it is.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That's, I mean, there's lots of people in some of those Texas counties.
Well, and the problem is, even the last few days of trying to get, any reasonable news, everything now is hypercharged.
Oh,
even the most calm, tame, NPR's got clickbait now. What's going on?
We did the Wiser thing this morning, and we were talking about truth, fake or truth news. What's fake and what's not fake, what's false and whatever the hell it was. And I mean, it's crazy. I mean, it's just gotten window licking stupid, and that's. I mean, it's just nuts. I mean, Evan hit me up the other day. I put something up on Twitter, and rightly so. It's like, hey, talk to me about this. When I was about the super spreader thing, because it was, one of the parties was bouncing around, and you got this big picture of a whole bunch of people, and it was a game of play spot the mask. And I'm like, I used a colloquialism for the COVID times of super spreader, and yeah, rightly so. He's like, hey, come on, let's get a bit real on this. And I'm like, you're right.
Yeah, nowadays, it's difficult. There's a lot of studies, and I can show you some, that I kind of dug up for tonight, but where I can't remember a time the United States has been more divided and like violently divided. It's not just, we disagree, but I mean, we're burning down cities, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people are shooting each other, and shit's just gone wild. And so, as you start to kind of think through why does this shit happen? Why are we here? You see the information that we get fed every day, whether it be in our inbox, our TVs, news feeds, social media, whatever. We just keep consuming shit. And I don't know if we've lost the ability to think critically about things, to be able to discern between, truth and bias, information and disinformation. But we're in a spot right now where, you see some shit on TV and you're like, what the fuck are you doing? That doesn't make any damn sense at all. And then you realize the information that they've been fed over and over and over again, to them, the shit makes perfect sense. To me, it's insane. So there's something happening.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, and it is getting a little political, I'll be honest on this one. When you have, I'm going to use your words for a second. Where does the responsibility lie to corporation? It's always at the CEO's level. Agreed? Ultimately, it's the CEO. Now, if you take that to a country level, the ultimate CEO is the individual, whoever it is, who's sitting in that office in the White House. Let's be honest. In theory, that would be the ultimate. That would be the CEO. Yes or no?
No, but yes. The reason why it's no is because no. I mean, truly, the reason why it's no is because of the checks and balances in the United States.
Right.
You have the three branches of government, and they're meant to check and balance each other. As a CEO, I can go fire anybody I want. I can go change whatever I want. There's really no recourse if I'm not a public company.
Yeah.
There's no board of directors to fire me. It's so it's a little different, but similar, I think.
They're similar. Would it be fair? And again, I don't want to get political, but I do want to say this. When we look at a company, we look at the CEO and go, the face of the company is often dictated by how the CEO acts and how the CEO is in as a person, as an organization. We've seen it. We look at Elon Musk. He farts in the wrong direction. The stock of Tesla goes in 6 different directions within 5 minutes. Now, when we have the CEO of the United States of America says things, does things, or certain things, unfortunately, we already have those angry things, but it's like, oh, I'm allowed to do that. It does feel like people are being given more permission to be more, I don't know if the word is forthright or more abusive is probably the wrong way of putting it. I don't have a good word to use. But it does feel like...
Yeah, I mean, and if I were CEO of this country, in a true business, if it was structured like a business, I would fire my entire management team, meaning the legislature, because they are completely fucking ineffective. They can't agree on anything. It's like a bunch of children. So, but in the case of the way the United States works, you can't do that.
Yeah. Although, I mean, that's to me is where that's where it kind of feels interesting to me, because I would say that this has been bubbling for a long time, and a long time meaning just more than one election cycle, no two ways about it. But it really feels like it's come to a major head this time. And maybe it is because it's such a polarizing individual. Whereas before, the last couple of elections, it's been a semi-polarizing individual. It's like, okay, they're a pain in the ass, but we can kind of get along with them. Whereas this one, it's either a love or a hate. There is no middle ground, it feels like.
I think it's because no matter which side politically, if you believe in the two sides, I'm more of a polyoctagon kind of guy. But if you, there have been more what the fuck moments in this particular 4-year cycle where, it's government kind of always was ineffective, right? It did whatever it did, and it kind of just followed along, and it was relatively stable. These last 4 years, there's been a lot of divisiveness, highly charged topics, crazy left field statements made on all sides. And it just seems like they're throwing a lot more shit this go around than they have in the past. And I think it's we, the people, it's been nonstop. Usually when the president had something to say, it was a reserved occasion. Oh, the president's going to say something. Well, let's break TV. Let's, you know what I mean? And because this particular presidency is definitely leveraged online more, I think it moved some of that out of its traditional forums into the internet. Well, now everybody's got something to say.
Right. And you've got to give him credit. I mean, for good or for bad, you've got to give him a shit ton load of credit. He has utilized that platform effectively.
100%. Absolutely.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, and let's play devil's advocate on that a little bit too. Never in the history that I can recall has a president already been faced so much against him before he even took office.
Agree.
You know, I mean, we had never Trumpers from the beginning.
Bush, Al Gore and Bush, go back 15 years ago. Bush definitely faced a lot of opposition. No, I think this is worse, but to me.
Well, because this time we've got, really, it seems like a bunch of sore losers from the very beginning, right? Let's change the rules. And we had the same thing in the Obama administration too, right? You had, you had the Tea Party, you had, all the investigations of shit that was going on with his administration.
Oh yeah, the where does he come from? Where does he live? Where does the birther? There we go. That was the whole birther shenanigans. You're right. I mean, he definitely had his, and I think that's where I go back to the Bush era, because I remember I'd been over here for a while, not that long. I've been over here for a while, and I remember I remember getting yelled at by D-Bob for fucking around with their voting machines. And so it was all the Florida and like who won it, who lost it, what counts, what doesn't count. And when he got in, when he eventually got in, there's a ton of shit that went down with that one. So to me, that was definitely one of the bigger ones. Then it went quiet for a while. I think Obama got some, but you're right. This time around, the knives were definitely out and sharp. And I wonder if it's because he was a known entity. You know, you look at the media and the TV that he stirred up before. There are a lot of people who are like, oh, what are we going to face? And there were a lot of people who, the other end were like, okay, he'll clean house. And
right.
Okay, but that doesn't explain the Thanksgiving phenomenon. Thanksgiving, we used to get together and Democrats and Republicans and people that voted for one side or the other could still have a fucking meal and peaceable conversation. It's been in this cycle. And I'm not saying that there's no one person. Everyone has been behaving badly. Everyone has been contributing to doubling down on the divisiveness, because no longer, I remember when Trump got elected, people started using the term "your president" like it was a derogatory term.
Yeah. Okay.
That's
good
a
point.
slippery slope. That's a slippery slope. What do you mean, I president? What happened to us? And so when Evan, brought this up tonight to talk about, the divided America, the division that I think a lot of it is rooted in this idea that, well, if I didn't vote for them, I don't have to rally behind them. And that hasn't been the case. The case was, well, we lost this time around, but we're America. We have to go forward. We have to, come together as a country, suck it up and deal with this. And then the next time around, we'll try to vote our people in to get it our way. And then this time around, it was like, nope, game over.
It's the respect the rank, not the person.
Right.
Yeah, I respect the office. Sorry, Gavin, go for it.
No, and that's the way I was raised, right? I was raised in a military family. The president is your commander-in-chief, whether you like it or not, right? You take orders from that person. And that's what makes things work. Here, I think another contributing factor to the very beginning being difficult was it was such a surprise. The Democrats thought they had this thing locked up. When Hillary didn't win, it was like, what the hell just happened? You know what I mean? It was crazy. And so I think
And you're right.
There's
Yeah. I think you're right. It wasn't the oh shit, we'll go for it again in 4 years. It was it was been 4 years worth of yeah, it's been 4 years worth of hell. Which, I mean, you know, to a tongue-in-cheek defense, you can see why every now and again he needles at that and says, "Hey, I didn't get a fair crack of the whip for the first 4 years. Fuck y'all. I want another 4 years as a simple default." I know he's doing it to egg people on, but you know, there is definitely a legitimate argument to that, because people didn't give him a fair crack of the whip, rightly or wrongly so.
And I wonder if disinformation plays a role in all of this, you know?
Yeah.
Because you can't get, you know, on the surface, you know, I wrote yesterday the difference between data and information. You know, data is facts. That, you know, the representation, facts, and statistics, right? It's information is the interpretation of those facts. So you and I can both look at the same exact thing, have a different perspective, and come up with different information about that data.
Totally.
Now, if I insert bias into that, and worse yet, manipulate.
Well, to Ryan's point, I mean, the bias has just gotten worse and worse, and it's gone to the point, and I think, you know, you guys are right. I mean, Thanksgiving, I remember when I first came to the US, this whole Thanksgiving thing was completely alien to me. And it literally was, you know, families would come together. It didn't matter race, region, religion, you know, any of the other shit. It just didn't matter. You got your ass together and you celebrated the fact that you were a family. And boy, has that really seems to have, in a lot of cases, unfortunately, gone out of the window. Somebody's fucking smoking.
We had to impose rules that there could be no political speech at the table because it wasn't going to be a productive conversation. See, this was the first year before was the first year we had to do anything like that. We had been having political discussions around the family table for a very long time with wildly different opinions on things, right? From ultra uber liberal, like like borderline cult, to the most, you know, borderline other cult, right? And everything in between. But we could do it, and it wasn't filled with fire.
Yeah, and exactly.
And I think it's the disinformation. I think the way the way that the information's being shaped is already to come at you in a hostile way. It's to ramp you up. Read the way the headlines are structured. Read the way that the stories and what they highlight within the story and how they take you through the narrative. And it's just, it's set up to ramp you up, because ramping you up gets clicks, and clicks get pennies, and pennies millions of times makes for, you know, I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
go for it. What a mess.
Ryan, were you still talking?
No, I was good. You were saying something. You were going to say something.
Oh no, I was letting you finish.
Oh, well, I'm done now.
I want, Ryan, you and I talked yesterday, and it was absolutely fantastic. I have to admit, the webinar we did this morning, I talked a little bit about that as well this morning. Do me a favor, I think, for everybody that's on here, the conversation we had from the town crier all the way forward, town crier, newspaper, test cards, have that, because I think a lot of people need to hear that, and it started off with the whole, like, you do your piece, then I'll talk about the amount of data we're gathering. Can I shoot this person smoking?
Yeah. So obviously I don't remember word for word, but the basic idea, so humans up until very recently got our information through some controlled ways. And so let me back up to kind of start at the beginning. Let's jump in a time machine and let's go back 100 years. 100 years ago, I had three main ways that I got my information. I got it either via the radio, I got it either via written in the newspaper, or I got it from, Jerry, the local shopkeeper, right? Or the barber. Okay. So I got it through another human who either got their information from one of those three sources. And that pretty much was how we did it, 100 years ago. And if we go back even further, there was, you still now had print media, you didn't have radio, and then you had the spoken word, right? We're creatures of storytelling. Storytelling is how we share information. That information generally is shared for risk and survival reasons. That's why the stories exist. There's snakes in that hole, that bush is poison. This is how we as people are structured. So when we hear things, we process those things for risk, for relevance to survival. That's like the first piece of mental processing that we go through. And we can do that very well when the information comes in small doses of negativity. But when we're processing vast volumes of highly charged negative information all the time, it's my belief that our brains aren't built for that we're literally incapable of handling it. And so it makes us more susceptible to things like mis and disinformation. It leads to increased rates of depression and anger and divisiveness and all these things, because we're in this state of constant bombardment. And that's a new phenomenon. We had negative news in the past, but it was very localized. It was very, you heard about what was going on in your backyard. A national story, maybe something global if it was truly huge. But now you hear about, this bombing here and that bombing there and this shooting and that shooting. And, if you watch any media, it's a stream of negative events. And it's my belief that our brains aren't built to handle that. So that's probably not exactly how I said it yesterday, but
it's near as damn it. It's near as damn it. I mean, we talked about the town crier. That was the interesting one. It was, but then again, okay, so I had a thought on that one, and we were talking about that one today. Again, we trusted the town crier to tell us the news. Who's to say that the town crier didn't get told by the mayor, hey, this is what I want you to say. This is how I want you to say it. This is what I want you to do. In essence, it's no different than we're doing with paid media these days, except it was one source, and you really didn't have the ability to validate the damn thing.
Well, I think you had an easier time validating because it was community, smaller community. One of the other things we're lacking, we talked about this as well, the essence of community that we once had globally, regardless of culture, background, or time in human era. Community is critical to survival. Therefore, it was something that existed. And I think in the old days, if the town crier said, hey, he grew a third leg, you'd go look, you'd go, no, he didn't. Yeah. Right. And that's the level of bullshit they're feeding us today. It's not, I would agree with you that there was probably some manipulation of the messaging, written or otherwise, back in the day, but they weren't trying to sell the level of falsity. Like,
when you read The Onion now, it seems sane and sensible. That's how I've validated things. I mean, God damn it, I'm going to fucking shoot him. Take your fucking cigarette somewhere else. Thank you. Sorry. This is actually a no smoking area, which is why I'm kind of pissed.
Yeah,
hello,
I get it.
Back again. Yes. I mean, that to me is that I think is, I mean, The Onion, I mean, literally sounds sane. News media itself is worse. That's how I'm looking at it. It's nuts.
Well, and we're not built for this. This is not
right.
Everything that's happening right now. Everyone that I know has some type of feeling about how 2020 has gone, whether it's political, whether it's COVID, whether it's race related, whether it's economic, whatever. And the isolation piece is part of it. The constant on is part of it, right? Because we're constantly receiving information now, where in the past we didn't. Even 25 years ago, we did not receive the daily deluge of info that we do now. And so I think part of it is the need to make up data as well to make information.
So I did a
24-hour news needs something.
Yeah, I did a talk over in Israel Monday, and we talked about the brain. Long conversation about the brain. It was all about, well, hey, I gave you credit because it was the conversation you and I had. Israel is now going to be chewing on analog, human, and digital world.
Nice.
And it's yeah, you're credited numerous times in the whole thing. It's kind of fun.
Oh,
and
thanks,
so, well, you kidding me? Of course. And the logic on this one was simple. The body sends, I want to say it's 11 million bits of information to the brain every single second, give or take a few. The brain itself can consciously only process 50 bits, not 50 million or 50 part 1,000, 50. The conscious brain can only process about 50 bits per second. So much of just us is so automated and so subconscious and everything else. And to your point, and this is one of the conversations I had, and I did a bunch of validation on this one. We have always talked about how much data we're creating and how much data we're doing. And I remember several years ago standing on stage and going, oh, in the last 10 years, we've created more data than we ever have on the planet. Well, screw that for Game of Soldiers. In the last 2 years, we've created 90% of all the data that we have on this planet just in the last 2 years. So you take that crazy, insane amount of data that we're creating, and then you look at our ability to consciously process that data, and you wonder why the fuck we can't deal with this. We just can't deal with it. We can't sit there and read a newspaper from the left and a newspaper from the right and the middle of the road. We can't do that. We don't have that capability and that bandwidth anymore. We've screwed. We've outdated ourselves.
Well, and the how and when we're doing that as well. Information sharing used to be semi-structured. When you know, so if we go back to sitting around the campfire, that was done at the end of the day. There was some knowledge transfer during the hunt to the youth, right? The old men would take the boys out and they would, okay, we're on the hunt and this is what tracks look like. And so that happened. But when there was news to share about the tribe or the next tribe over or the coming war, you know, negative information, it was always done in a group setting. It was done around the campfire. That's how the first message went out. And then just like all humans, you know, if you didn't hear, hey, let me tell you what I heard, right?
Yeah.
Telephone. But the main sharing happened in group settings. Families would sit around their radios and listen to nightly news. And then we talked about this. We talked about remembering when television went off the air.
Test cards, BBC test cards.
Yeah, test cards. Yeah, it was done. Game over. No more TV tonight.
It was like 10 or 11 at night. I can't remember, but I remember being a kid, being able to like sneak up and see the test card and the year and all the other stuff on it. And just, God, I remember. It's scary. And then we got like BBC One and BBC Two. Then we got ITV, which was a little kind of crazy. And then Channel 4 came along, which fucked the whole thing up. I mean, that was like Murdoch and madness. Basically, we modeled ourselves after you bunch of window-licking lunatics.
Yeah, well, you know.
Oh, we still do it. It's scary. I mean, the UK is like mini US. It's interesting to see how the rest of Europe reacts to it.
That's how you got us back. You started that reality TV garbage.
Hang on, did we start that shit?
No, wait, maybe we did. I don't know.
I mean,
MTV started it.
MTV, yeah, we can both blame and thank MTV. But okay, add on that next one. The other point that you made yesterday, day before, whenever the hell it was we were talking. That other point you made, we both were talking about it. That fucking iPhone.
13 years ago, we blew up the world and we didn't know it. Yeah, well, it is. It's. I firmly believe this in my heart of hearts that humans are part of why we're experiencing all this negativity and all the out of controlness that we're feeling in our world has to do with the fact that we're trying to participate in the whole globe all the time.
Yeah.
And that's just not how we were built. We were built for smaller tribal community type of living, you know, going off of our biology, if you will, right? The bigger the groups we live in, the worse the conditions. Don't believe me? Go back to London. London for a very long time.
Ooh. that was a
was an
cesspool.
absolute cesspool, right?
Yeah.
So the
Play,
you know, and
1056. Yeah, we put the place down. It needed it.
Right. You know, so you know, it's the whole idea that because the world is now at the end of my arm, right? I mean, if you just look at teenagers, that thing is part of their hand. I'm waiting for the skin growth. I think that then, because then there now is this need for this constant information stream, it leaves a huge window open to fill it with whatever. Evan says this all the time. Leave a gap, it'll get filled.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's always fun to me on like sales calls, because I'll say one or two things. I'm not going to shut up. And it's fun to watch the salesperson just basically open their mouth, keep doing this, and shoot themselves in both feet. It's hilarious sometimes, because nobody likes that gap. Nobody likes to be like, okay, let's have a bit of peace and quiet for 2 minutes.
Well, it's, yeah. Evan, are you back with audio now? I see your face, but can we hear you?
Yeah, I'm listening.
Cool.
Yeah.
You're all right.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm good. It was a good conversation to listen to, for sure. You know, I like Ryan knows me. A lot of times I'll sit back and just take in what it is that people are saying and process it. So I think so. There's no doubt that people are ripe for manipulation for a lot of reasons, right? The mechanism is there, right? With bombardment of information, you're getting it from television, I mean, you can't get away from it. You go to bed with it, you wake up in the morning, it's there with you all day, right? This bombardment of information. Everybody's got a bias. Everybody's got, there was something I was thinking about today. It's the word cui bono. You ever heard that before used?
What'd you say?
Latin for who? Cui bono.
Oh, we lost Chris.
Yeah. Cui bono is who benefits.
Oh, okay. Yep.
So who benefits from manipulation? Who benefits from us being divided?
Well, lots of people. Politicians benefit from it. Corporations benefit from it. You know my take on this. The devil benefits from it. You know, lots of people.
Yeah. There you are.
Ooh, feedback, Jack.
Sorry, I got you back. You guys okay or not?
We're here. We're
all
good.
Right. Yeah. Sorry. If it drops again, I'll tether to the phone and we'll see if that works.
Yeah, no problem.
So to your point about who benefits, right? Well, you know, the people doing the disinformation. So then we have to ask ourselves, well, what are they doing disinformation on, and who is doing the disinformation, right? And
but that's, I totally agree with that. But there's a reason why they're doing the disinformation. So it's not, people isn't who. Yes, they're benefiting from the information, but who is it? In my opinion, it's nation state. It's China, it's Russia, it's Iran, it's North Korea. Because how do you take down a big enemy? How do you take down the biggest enemy in the world?
From the inside, by letting them rip each other apart. Well, and here's the point you hit on. This is 100% PsyOps 101. I am watching true psychological warfare in its purest form be executed minute by minute. I'm watching the media. All you have to do, if you're ever curious to do this, you will see the exact same local news segment, whether it's CBS, NBC, you know, you pick whatever the talking points are for the day, and you go watch all these local segments, you will get the exact same regurgitated reading of the daily talking points, right? Well, where do they get those talking points from? And who are those people getting those talking points from? Because journalists aren't doing journalism any longer. They're regurgitating the printout that's given to them by the corporation. that decides what goes in that printout. That very same corporation who may or may not have large Chinese interests, who may or may not be infiltrated and manipulated by foreign nation state governments. Right? We know they go after corporations. We know they do that stuff. Spies need jobs too.
Well, you and I watched the Social Dilemma. Right?
All right.
Say what?
You and I watched the Social Dilemma.
Yes.
And so you know that the highest bidder is the one who controls the game. Who's got the most resources.
Right.
Right. And so the game that's being played, you're right. Russia did meddle in the election in 2016. You think they're not meddling in the election in 2020? You think that they had 3-4 years to plan out how they were going to do it? How they were going to divide us? It's really easy to manipulate people, right? You either feed them information that justifies, that fits their bias, right? And you keep feeding it, you keep feeding it, and keep feeding it. Eventually, what you have on your hand is a radical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. That's how you make a suicide bomber. Right. You just keep feeding it. Just keep feeding it. Just keep feeding it.
But how much of that is rooted in the fact that my news source is now social media?
Yeah.
That the expert that I'm getting my facts from is Karen. I mean, that's.
How much?
I'm sorry for anybody listening that's named Karen. You know, we didn't know when you were born. we didn't know.
Let me go find a better place. I'll see you guys in a sec. I'll drop for a sec. I'll be back in a sec.
Okay. So how much, and the fact is, and Evan, you know this, how many times have you seen Twitter used as a source cited in a regular local news broadcast or article? So-and-so said something on Twitter is now considered citing a source.
Well, and it doesn't matter whether it's Twitter or whether it's your father. As long as wherever you're getting your source of information, if that information is being used to manipulate you, I'm going to feed into your bias and continue to, just reinforce your bias. Keep reinforcing your bias. Keep reinforcing your bias. Pretty soon, you don't believe anything that comes from anything else, right? You're closed-minded to any other input. If it doesn't fit with my bias and the flow of information that I've received my entire life, it's bullshit, right? It's conspiracy theory. It's whatever the hell it is, but it ain't reality, right? And then you've got, let's say it goes against my bias. If I decide, because we all use either logic or emotion to drive decisions, to drive what we're going to do, right? And so if you conflict with my bias, and I have the ability to think, but we've lost that ability. A lot of us have lost that ability to think.
Well,
So
and I was saying
the fear, depression. I'm sorry, not depression. Fear, confusion, anger. Those are all emotions. And so if you're going against my bias, that's how I'm going to lash out. And I've used the same thing. We've talked about it before. I can't in my position with reason or logic. I'm going to do one of two things. I'm either going to change the subject or I'm going to attack you. And that's kind of where we're at. That's how we've driven this wedge between us. Because I've either reinforced the bias, keep feeding you the same information, whether it be on social media or whether it be whatever your news. People who watch CNN. They don't watch Fox News. People who watch Fox News watch Fox News. They don't watch CNN. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's even worse now because you're not even exposed to other overheard opinions and conversations. I mean, there were, in the pre-corona days, in the before time when fun happened, you would hear people, whether you wanted to hear it or not. Let's say you were out at a bar or a restaurant, the table behind you, if they were loud, you would overhear what they were talking about, what their opinion or thought was on something. You got exposed to stuff. I was saying this to somebody the other day. Maybe it was even Chris. I don't remember. But basically, if you were watching a show on broadcast TV, let's say you were, I don't know, watching a football game. Now, that might not have been your news station of choice, but you still saw the commercial trailers for the news. You still saw, bits of information presented to you that might not have been from your viewpoint. And now that everything is on demand streaming, and all the advertising is now custom tailored, political and otherwise, I just don't think we're exposed as much as we used to be.
Well, 100%, man. That's what I'm saying. That's the mechanism. The mechanism to manipulate you is. You know what I'm saying?
I do. I'm sorry. I'm laughing because I see Chris just towering over an iPad in this like epic lobby.
Yeah, they put me in a meeting room because I just walked in. I'm like, I love you guys and I love this hotel. Actually, I don't, but your internet's fucking awful. They're like, we'll put you in a meeting room where there's a dedicated router. And so I'm in a meeting room, but there's no chairs and there's one table in the corner. So I'm actually, iPads on the table, on the chairs. And yeah, I'm in a nice meeting room, but no fucking table and no chairs. So I'm stood here like this until, we get out of here. So fucking one clusterfuck after another. It's not quite as bad as your lunacy with the RV, but it feels that way.
Well, we can't all have a special RV that gives us memories.
we were going to bring the RV up here and do the RV, but I'm like, no, we'll stay in a nice hotel, and next time taking a fucking RV.
Yeah, you live and you learn.
Exactly. It's an experience, to your point.
So right, you just you're making memories.
Yeah. Go with it. I need more wine. I haven't had enough wine and the place is closed down, so I can't even get more fucking alcohol. All right, so what did I miss? Ooh, is that an echo on my end?
You've got some echo. Evan's audio's been shit all night long, and apparently people think I'm breathing some kind of chemical that makes my voice lower. Because I finally got a decent mic so you can actually hear me.
You were okay as you were. Oh, this is
no, Chris. No. So quick side channel story here. So we took the RV up north for storage, and my wife decided on the drive up, she was driving behind me because she was my ride home. She was going to listen to an episode of the shit show. So she listened to one of the episodes. And we get there, I get out of the RV, she gets out of the car, she goes, do you know you sound like shit?
No.
And wait, I didn't take it at face value. I listened and I was like, damn, sounds like I'm calling in from inside a tin can. So hopefully.
Which one did you listen to? Which one did you, which one?
Analog Human Digital World.
Oh no! All right, I might have to go back and listen to that when I figure out what the hell's going on with it.
And I listened to it. It sounded like I was in a garbage can. So, thanks by the way for no one telling me. Jeez,
you didn't sound bad.
Well, I'm talking to the audience too, man. What the hell?
Oh yeah. God, I can't see the audience, so I apologize. I can't do the YouTube tonight. I'm just purely
sulfur. I can't even pronounce this. Sulfur hexafluoride. Maybe I got it right. I don't know.
I know that stuff. Why is that being talked about on the channel?
I don't know. I have no idea. Let's see.
Oh dear. It's another one of those DOE visits again.
Who knows? I don't know.
Speaking of sulfur, I'm sitting outside in the garden here. I can smell the sulfur from the spring baths that are like across the road. So I'm gonna go.
Yeah, they are fragrant. That is one thing that we learned. Yes. There is definitely an essence of who farted.
Yeah. Oh God. We got the two dogs up here with us as well, so it's going to be interesting. We won't be able to blame the dogs all the time. There's a TV on the wall, and I want to see if I can fuck with it. All right, where were we? Solving problem. Okay, so all right, how do we solve this problem? What do we do?
I don't know.
Evan, what do we do?
Well, okay, so here's the dilemma, though. This goes back to something else we talked about before, which is not all humans have an inside voice, because not all humans are capable of, I know you hate it. Not all humans are capable of operating at a cognitive level high enough to make the rational judgment calls about the information that they're processing. And that therein lies the dilemma. Here's a story from tonight. So my friend, we'll call him the nurse, comes over to visit with me this evening. And he tells me a story from work. A guy's in getting chemo. Okay. Now, the guy has previously been outpatient, so his chemo came in small packages because it's a concentrate. But when they do it inpatient, they put it in a standard IV bag. He refused to take the second bag because no matter how many times the oncologist, the nurses, residents, everybody explained to him that the medication was identical in volume, just being dispersed across 2 bags of saline not hurtful to you, refused to take the second bag and left against medical advice because I'm not taking that much chemo. So you have a barrier here with mental abilities to make rational judgment calls. Otherwise, this gentleman was, as I was told, was a perfectly reasonable human. So I know, but there are people out there who cannot. You say the news lied to you. They said that's impossible. The news only tells the truth. Right. Or you get the opposite effect. All I'm being is lied to. I'm in that camp, by the way. I think right now I don't trust any of it.
I hover. I'm not quite in the. I'm on the fence. I know that Russia's meddling. I know a bunch of other countries, but I'm also looking inside. I'm looking in the mirror and going, if you look at statistics, you look at how many elections over, I think it's over like 180, almost 200 elections have been fucked with. The US has fucked with more other people's elections.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah, totally. So in essence, we should be eating our own fucking dog food. Let's be perfectly honest on this one.
But I bet
we should have been ready for it. We should have been ready for it.
But I bet you if we survey the public, let's do a Gallup poll. How many people believe that the government meddles in other elections? Now, the problem with the Gallup poll is only certain types of people take Gallup polls. They do not go to Harlem or inner cities and stand on street corners and do surveys. They do not go to rural parts of America to those communities and do surveys. So you're not getting a fair representation. And the problem is that those people are voters, no matter where they are. And their voice is never counted when they're doing these surveys, when they're making these decisions about shaping policy and doing these things. They're not doing it based on what America thinks or Americans think. It's off of who responded to the poll. And that's a very narrow group of people.
All right, so let me get really mean and nasty on this one.
Ooh.
And we've said this many times. I'm getting pissed off with this damn echo. You shouldn't be allowed to have kids unless you can pass a fucking test, okay? To me, it's the same thing with voting. Voting isn't just a right, it's a responsibility.
I agree. I agree.
And it's not an intelligence thing. It's not anything else. You want to vote. You want to change the course of this country, then you should be fucking educated enough to do it. You should educate yourself enough. And that doesn't mean you have to go to university or any of that shit. You should at least take 5-10 minutes to understand effectively all of the parties and opinions and pieces and voices and everything else.
Okay, but if you should have a license to have kids, can I also advocate that when the kid doesn't turn out quite the way you would hope, that you're free to divest yourself of that responsibility as well?
Are we divesting ourselves in a plastic?
I'm just saying, this one didn't come out quite right. I'd like to try again.
Can we try again, please?
Yeah.
Oh.
Can I get a redo, or can I just get it back when it's 25 and we can try from there?
Oh my God, we are so going to get so much shit on the fucking channel on this one. But to me, that is the thing. I mean, seriously, it's, you know, if you're going to bring somebody into this.
You're right, but the problem is when they do try to receive any type of education on this topic, where does that education come from? I tried to watch the debates, Chris. I tried to educate myself as an American. Yeah, I tried to educate myself as an American on the positions of the two presidential candidates, and what I got in turn was a bunch of toddlers throwing fucking food at each other. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever seen in my life. Sure as hell isn't the kind of behavior I want out of leaders of the country, out of either of them. The whole thing was ridiculous. Even Chris Wallace, I'm like, at one point, I'm like, dude, man up already. Shut this down.
Well, no shit. I mean, you're the fucking moderator. I don't care that it's the POTUS. Tell him to shut the fuck up. I don't care that it might be the next POTUS. Tell him, sir, shut the fuck up.
You know, and the vice presidential one wasn't a whole lot better. Although
I will give that one. Yes,
it was classier.
I will give that one.
And several people had to replace their TV because of that damn fly on his head. But the point is, though, is I still, hold on. I watched that one, and you know what I got? No facts. No nothing. I saw two. So that one, at least I didn't see two toddlers. That was more of two teenagers, and you're asking them where they've been and what they've been up to. So how would you work on that? Well, you see this other topic over here that I'd like to talk about that has nothing to do with the question you asked me.
Pisses me off. Again, moderator, answer the fucking question. Why can't the moderator actually sit there and say, answer the fucking, it's the same thing with this, the hearing that's going on at the moment for the lawyer. God, brain's gone to sleep. The Supreme Court.
Oh, yeah.
It's the same thing. It's like, answer the fucking question. Stop.
Well, and that's it, right? And the sad part is we accept this as the way it works.
Yeah.
You know, the we the people part of this whole arrangement seems to have been forgotten.
It's again back to the CEO mentality. So perfect example. I'm going to pick on Evan because Evan's the CEO. If Evan goes to somebody and asks them a question like, "Hey, did you do this or did something happen?" You guys have rules. Tell the fucking truth. You got rules. You got simple stuff. This is simple, basic humans.
So I don't know if you were here when the O.J. Simpson trial happened, but let's talk about rules and let's talk about money and let's talk about our justice system. I mean, the guy wrote a book. I understand that it might have been fiction, but if you get acquitted for murdering your wife and her boyfriend and then write a book called "If I Did It, Here's How," you can't get any more. I mean, welcome to the American justice system. And there are people right now doing 25 to life for a dime bag of weed, and people that aren't, right? And you, I mean, there's the whole system's broken. And we, the people, by the way, you know who the CEO of this country is? You, me, Evan, everybody listening. We are the CEOs. We, the people, we, the people, have failed to do our job, which is control this shit by getting involved. We've advocated this. We've said, you know what? When I think about politics, when I get involved in my government, every 4 years or 2 years, whenever I'm going to the poll, that's when I get involved. I mean, how many times, and I'm guilty of this too, early on in my youth of voting, right? I went in, first time I voted, I only knew the presidential candidates. I didn't know there were judges to be voted. Why are there judges on here? And then my favorite was how many of those slots were unchallenged. It was one bubble. There was no second option. Right? So when that becomes the system you're accustomed to, and then so you go, oh, it's October, I should probably get up to speed on who to vote for. And then you turn on the debate and, you know, it's
sitting on the fucking floor. God, I hate hearing when I talk to my mum sometimes in the UK, and I get the bloody echo, and I got the bloody echo now. It's driving me nuts.
Apparently, Evan has decided to leave the conversation, and now he's just on chat. You know,
He
Chris
is?
What is he
I
doing?
can't do chat for crying out loud, you pain in the ass.
Yeah, what are you doing?
Is he on our chat or is he on the big channel?
I don't know what he is dropping from the discussion.
So did we upset him? Is he okay?
I don't know. I don't think so. I would think he would say something if we did.
I hope so. Evan, did we do something? Did we say something?
No, he didn't say.
Okay. I hope not.
But to the question he asked the group, right? So
I didn't want to get in the way of the conversation. I was
oh, dude.
You're part of the conversation.
Yeah.
No,
I've just had too much wine. It's been one of those evenings.
No. It's all good, man. You guys got a good flow going. I'm just hanging out. The disinformation is the part that is pissing me off, and I don't know, man. Shit doesn't happen on accident, right? There's no such thing as chance. There's no such thing as coincidence, right? There are things and forces behind disinformation that leads us to where we're at right now. We've never been more divided as a country than we are today. And it's frustrating because I happen to be one of those people that loves this country. You know what I mean? And I'm a patriot, but unfortunately, that word patriot has been stolen now to represent something that it's not. And I'm not some right-wing nut. I'm not some racist son of a bitch. But if you're on that side, if you get that information feed every day, that's what you'll think. Right? And so that's the part that frustrates me, is that we rush to judgment. People don't take time to actually discern information. People don't think. People don't seek fact. It's over and over and over again. Right? Take anything that's that's kind of top of the news today. Take COVID. Right? How fucking divided are we on COVID? Right? You read 217,000 deaths, right? And the left blames Trump. Trump is responsible for 217,000 deaths. It's like, well, what the fuck? It's a virus. He didn't make the virus. I understand his policies led to certain things, but there are both sides of that, and that's what we're missing in this country, is the ability to be respectful and to talk through issues, right? To use logic, to use the left side of your fucking brain instead of being sheep. We're not sheep. God gave us brains to think, right? To respect each other, to love each other, to come together, to debate things, to accept other people, because even if they have a different opinion than mine, the point isn't to change your mind. The point isn't to make you me. The point is we're diverse, right? We love each other. We have a common ground. Where's our fucking common ground?
Well, and I think we've lost it because we've lost community, because it's now what's in my echo chamber. The common ground used to be my block.
Right. But to bring this back, this is on purpose.
Oh, 100%. That I don't dispute that at all, by the way. I do. The 100%, this is, all right, as it always has been. It's just at a scale now that's insane. Getting propaganda back in the day was more difficult. Yeah. Right. For Russia, China, insert enemy here to influence a nation, which is why we poured billions of dollars into a military industrial complex around getting propaganda into countries. We spent gajillions of dollars. There are many, many gray-haired men that will tell you about sitting in a jungle or sitting on a mountaintop running a satellite dish so that they could rebroadcast propaganda channels. Yeah. Now,
take this to a world level, right? We are the superpower. We are the most powerful country in the world, right? And the truth is, the wind always blows the strongest at the top of the mountain.
Yep.
Right? You're sitting on top. Everybody's shooting for you. Everybody's aiming for you. And that's us, right? China has, we treat China like they're friends. The Chinese citizens might be friends. It's not racist to call China an enemy of the United States. That's a fact, right? I mean, they want world domination. They want to sit in our seat. So then the question is, are we going to give them our seat? What's the best way to defeat us? Well, why don't we defeat each other? Why don't we go through a fucking civil war and start shooting each other? Which we are, by the way. Right? And China could just walk right in. You don't have to fight us anymore. What are you fighting? So that's the part that's pissing me off. There's a bigger game at play here. It's bigger than Biden. It's bigger than Trump. It's us. We're the problem. The war is in our heads.
Well, and that's where my whole "we the people" comment comes from. I've thought this for years, that we the citizenry are not doing our part to be the check and balance we're supposed to be. How in the hell do you have a senator that sat in the same seat for 60 years? It's not because he's good. The guy was a racist piece of shit.
Yeah.
But he was the incumbent. And how many people, when they go into that voting booth, just either vote party line with zero knowledge why, or vote for, oh, well, that's the incumbent, must do a good job if they're already there. So I didn't hear anything bad about them, so they must be good. And then when you add misinformation on top of it, and that's where the divisiveness and the rip each other apart crap is coming from, is the hateful nature of how the misinformation is flowing. It's not just this person is against your viewpoint, it's this person is against you. And that's what I see as the weaponization. I see it's not even so much anymore, oh, that opinion is loony, it's your loony. And we've lost that.
I love engaging. I love, how many people actually enjoy other perspectives? When I ask a question like, the hairy one here, he brought up a great point. He talked about, on Twitter, he called it a super spreader event. And I had to preface what I asked with out of utmost respect, because I don't disrespect people. I do actually respect other opinions. But I had to preface it with that because we're in this world now where you might take this as an attack. But I was curious, what do you think a super spreader is? Because I don't know. You know what I mean? And so, but there's this respect between me and Chris. There's respect between me and you, Ryan. And there's respect, we have the daily insanity check-ins every morning. And there are people who don't believe the same things as I do politically.
Nope.
But never have we ever had a disrespectful conversation in that forum. And that's where it starts, right? Respecting human beings for who they are. And then let's entertain other things, right? That actually aids in your critical thinking. Closed-mindedness defeats thinking. I should be questioning myself all the time. What I'm saying is actually fucking true. What I'm saying.
Let me play devil's advocate. Let's go back to money. Because money, let's be honest, I'm not sure if I'm with the whole root of all evil, but it sure as hell is an interesting pathway towards some of it. So let's talk. I want to take China. I want to take everybody else out of the equation. I don't get me wrong. I do believe that there is definitely a concerted effort, but let me throw a different perspective at it. The news channels. Let's take the far right and the far left. Let's go with CNN and Fox. Okay, now we got the two, and now NPR's trying to be in the middle of the spot as much as they can. All of them need sponsorship. Every single one of them lives and dies by how many people view their media. They all are looking for that extra level, that sensational, that tick. We all know that bad news sells. We all know that if I come up to you and they go, hey, I've got a kind of a cool gadget, you'd be like, okay, that's kind of cool. If Ryan comes up to you and goes, hey, I've got a really fucking cool gadget, you'd be like, ooh, I'm interested. If Evan comes up to you and goes, this gadget is fucking infinity +1, it's amazing, it's balls to the walls, this thing's the best thing since fucking sliced bread, and it beats the crap out of everything else, you'd be like, shit, that's actually kind of cool. I like that. Tell me more. So if you take that level of mentality and how we're all fighting for the same set of eyeballs and ears on the internet, the one that comes up with the most sensational version of Trump sneezed, the one that comes up with the most sensational version of that is going to get the most eyeballs, which means they're going to get the money, which means they're going to get the sponsorship, which means they're going to get all the other stuff that goes with it, which means they can afford things. At that point, now we have to take a step back and go, it's the capitalistic side of things that, to me, is bringing a huge problem to this.
I agree. And that's what's being used against us, right? That's, I mean, think of how, if I were to fight an enemy, I would prepare myself, right? I would study my enemy. This is the art of war, right?
Yeah.
This is nothing. I would study my enemy. I would try to find, can I use their greatest strength against them? One of our greatest strengths that makes us the richest company in the world is our capitalism. It is our greed. Can I use that against them? Absolutely. Right? And then I take inventory of what weapons do I have? What assets do I have to go to battle with these guys? Well, why don't I just use their assets? Why don't I just use their Twitter, their Facebook?
But are we doing, okay, so again, I want to take our adversaries out of it. I want to take anybody else that wants to do us harm. You're right. The US is on top of, near the top.
How can you? Because that's who's behind it.
Chris, are you taking the sensationalism angle, right? The pay for clicks, the bigger the bag, the bigger the bang in my firecracker versus the next one, because I need to get that ad revenue. That's the angle you're taking on this, right?
This is not, to me, this sounds, so I'm not disputing what Evan is saying. I'm not disputing that we have elements coming from other countries. But and this is only because I'm dealing with some of the stuff coming out of some places. That's all I'm saying on a fucking YouTube video. I would argue we're giving them too much credit. Yes, there's definitely campaigns. Absolutely, no two ways about it. At this plain as day, we've got all the information. But I would also heavily say that we're doing it to ourselves. Again, I go back to my example. Trump sneezed. Okay? Trump sneezed. That's fact. He sat there and went, achoo! Okay, he sneezed. Congratulations. On one side of the fence, we have Trump, the man, the amazing individual, has overcome COVID, and he is sneezing, and his sneezes will cure you of COVID. And then we have the other side of the coin, which is like, oh my fucking God, his sneezes just polluted 500 people in the area, back to the super spreader. He's just super spread it to 600 people. Those are your two elements. Both of those are going to attract way more fucking eyeballs than, well, Trump sneezed today.
So
before Trump sneezed, he had already gotten here. The ground had already been laid, right? The ground had already been laid back in 2012. The 2016 election was already manipulated. It was a test ground for how can I use social media to start. I mean, look at what's happening right now, right? In Twitter yesterday, I think banned some Biden thing, but I wasn't paying attention because I frankly don't give a shit. So I think it's all bullshit anyway. There's this. The reason why half of us look at Trump sneezing is like, wow, he's a tough son of a bitch. And the other half is looking like, you fucking pussy. No, I told you to wear a damn mask. The reason it's there is because we've already been manipulated. Yes, we allowed it to happen to ourselves, but it's not like you go from point A to point Z overnight. The way you manipulate people, because I've done it myself too many times in social exercises, and I don't, Dad Nagy doesn't call it manipulation. It's influence, right? Manipulation is a bad thing, so I don't do manipulation. But you take people from where you're at, and I know where I want to get you. You know point A. I know that you're at A. I know I want to get you to point Z. But I'm not going to take you from point A to point Z overnight. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take you from point A, I'm going to take you to point B. And it's just a small compromise. It seems insignificant. It seems innocent. I mean, what the hell? Yeah, just a compromise, whatever. It's not a big deal. You go from B to C, and then eventually you end up at Z, and then you look back, right? Then you have this perspective. You look back and you go, holy fuck, how did we get here?
Yeah. By the way, we don't call it manipulation these days. We call them influencers. They're social media influencers. That's what we call them.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. So don't get me wrong. I think they have, and I think that's where we see a lot of the manipulation is the influencing side. Back to that, hey, oh wow, I'm getting some serious echo. Back to that, hey, you know, I care that Trump sneezed because, you know, he's manly about it. Well, I'm going to feed you more Trump manly stuff. I'm going to give you I'm basically doing a Putin. I'm putting Trump on top of a bear and I'm putting him out there. And that's manly and that's on my wall nowadays. Whereas if I think it's the other way, I'll keep feeding you more of that information. And yeah, I think that definitely huge amount of influence, not from these shores and these territories.
Right.
I also think we've done a hell of a lot of it to us.
Well, you allow it to happen to yourself, which is the frustrating part, right? I mean, it's like, what the fuck? Wake up. Do you see what's happening? Do you see what's playing out right in front of you? When we are the most powerful country in the world and we got there because we were unique, right? Yes, we've got faults. Nobody doesn't have faults, right? Yes, there's racism. If you don't think there's racism, then you got another manipulation. But you know, we made progress. Look at where we were in the 50s, the 60s, and look where we are today, right? You know, schools are now integrated. Yes, we've got more work to do. Oh my God, we've got a hell of a lot more work to do. But let's celebrate some of the progress that we've done. Let's look at what we've done. We became this country we became a superpower because we were Catholic, because we were a democracy, because we were a republic. And now we're on the precipice today where socialism is a reality here, potentially, right? And you know how socialism works as a construct. The people that educate themselves, to your point, Chris, about pick up a fucking book, Google some shit. You know, socialism as a construct is beautiful. Honestly, it's beautiful. If and only if it's true, the person who runs it is incorruptible.
That's the same thing. It's
not possible.
Sorry, go on, Evan.
No, and that's not possible, right? So socialism, the way it works, it ends up like Venezuela, it ends up like Cuba, it ends up like, you know, maybe it morphs into communism and you get a Russia, right? What's their quality of life compared to quality of life? Just in general. We take so much shit for granted too in this country. It blows me away. It's like, I don't need water. I have a place to sleep. How many people don't have that shit? I don't know, man. I could preach all day. It's very frustrating the fact that this disinformation, it has been used, it is being used to manipulate us, to get us to fight each other. I hate it because these are my brothers and sisters, man. Whether I agree with you or not, you're my brother. You're a citizen of my country. You're in my home.
Yeah. And I think that comes back to me, and it might be the blunt way of doing it. But you know, I look at this country, you know, for all its good and all its bad, I look at it and you have as an individual the ability to influence. And in essence, it's your right to do that. So that's where it pisses me off. It's you've been given this capability and this ability, fucking use it, which comes with responsibilities. It's the same thing with weaponry. You can go and you can buy almost any kind of freaking weapon you want in this country without too many guards and rails. But that comes with responsibilities. It comes with education. It comes with training. It comes with awareness. And to me, the vote, and especially the news and the media, has to almost come with that same warning. It's like, you know what? this is fucking dangerous.
Well, so when you blend editorial with news and keep calling it news, we had, you know, guys, we solved this problem, right? In 1946, they made a law, the Fairness Doctrine. And if you were going to have an editorial, you had to give fair and equal time to both sides, or all three sides, or all five sides. Everybody got a fair shake. And it was very clear that it was editorial content. Now I have sponsored news stories.
Yeah, that shit.
Right.
Yeah,
and when,
right.
So to Evan's point, right, the reason I bring this up is, so we made little compromises. Some of them started back in the 40s, and we made little compromises and we made little compromises, and then sponsored news stories were okay. Well, why is there a First Amendment? What is, you know, I love to do this. So you ask somebody what the First Amendment is, and they'll tell you it's the freedom to speak. So what else is it? What was one of the founding principles? Why does it need to be there? For a free media, a media free of governmental influence, and ideally also free from commercial influence, right? Journalists were supposed to take a journalistic oath. They were supposed to report the facts as they saw them. Do you guys remember this? Do you remember that there were rules about being a journalist? There were consequences. Were. Right? Yeah. There were consequences. If you got caught with your hand in the cookie jar, you lost your right to be a journalist. If you were telling lies, boom, you weren't a journalist anymore, because journalists don't tell lies. They report the truth as best as they can, given how they experience the situation.
Yeah, you're right.
So again, when we compromise on that, you know, it's these little bits. So Evan was 100% spot on the compromise piece and the slippery slope of these little tiny steps that have led us to now. And now what we have is fake news. Well, hold on. That shouldn't exist if journalists were held to the standard of journalism that was put in place, because they were supposed to be the people's voice, right? So you had all the branches of the government, and then the media was supposed to be the people's voice to out naughty government people when they got caught with their hand in the, oh, so-and-so made a backdoor deal with such and such. We're outing them so the public knows what's going on, so we can then take the necessary steps to, you know, arrest or impeach or whatever we're going to do. So when journalists stop being held to a standard, that's when the accelerator pedal got hit.
Hey, Ryan, so I agree with that. I think journalists, but I don't think that's the primary source of information. I think journalists are getting manipulated also. I think journalists are part of the manipulation. They get their news. I mean, I don't know how many times I've been reached out on Twitter by, hey, this one thing happened, you know, can I talk to you about it? You know, so they're always on Twitter trying to keep their finger on the pulse of what's going on and shit like that. So I wonder how much maybe our media has been manipulated too.
Okay, so let's add to that. Let's add the next level to that one, which is, Ryan, go back to the newspaper. So I remember, when I was working in London and working in Cheltenham, I'd pick up a newspaper every morning. And I'd pick up different ones because I'd be interested to see different views and different thoughts and everything else. Now, where do we get our news from? Where does it come from? It doesn't come from that band of journalists, to your point, journalists who wrote the newspaper. It doesn't come from the journalists who read the news on the BBC. It comes from, it comes from all sorts of different sources. I look at LinkedIn half the time and I read stuff on there, and then I have to go fact check the stupid shit half the time as well. But we're not pulling our news sources from journalistically integral places. Whether they're being manipulated or not, we're not learning from that pool of journalists, because most of them got scattered to the winds when everything went digital.
Well, and how many journalists are out doing interviews versus, and I think I said this earlier tonight, when Twitter becomes a citable source, you've got a problem.
Yeah. There's a few. I'd actually argue there's a few. So I know like this infosec folks over at like Wall Street and like Kim Zedinger, and there's actually some really good. There are some good ones, but boy, are they lost in other areas. I mean, Krebs is on and off. I mean, he's had some good stuff, but he's been beaten up on a couple of times with some of his stuff that comes out of it. Because again, it's who are your sources? Where are they coming from?
Well, and that's it. And okay, so now I don't care what side of the fence you're on. If you were to do a survey of average America and say, can you trust the news? Now the answer from everybody's no. Well, if you just knocked out the foundation pillar of we the people's voice in our governmental system, all you've done is a big favor for any nation state that wants to cause more trouble.
Yeah, that's fair.
It's the whole core of the First Amendment. You know, everybody thinks freedom of speech means their right to say whatever they want, but that's actually got more to do with the journalist having the power to out, which is why they had the ability to legally protect their sources, why they can't be subpoenaed. I mean, people, you know, to your guys' point about pick up a fucking book, how about you pick up the fucking Constitution? Take a quick peek at that real quick and remind yourself of your role in the government. Your role is not just to go to a voting booth every couple of years. It's just not. It's to be more knowledgeable about the issues, to be more, you know, I know that when I say write a letter, people cringe because it sounds so 1700s, but write a fucking letter. Write a letter to your congressperson, write a letter to your senator, get involved, hold them accountable, ask questions. There you go, Evan. That's a great graphic. And that's coming from Gallup, right? That's the people that take it. I guarantee you those numbers are always lower and or higher if they actually surveyed, you know, the whole populace.
Right.
But
well, this is a great study too. Because it also goes into, you know, how it's changed, right? Look at we're at essentially the lowest number of not at all, right? We trust the mass media not at all. 33% of people today.
Jeez.
So it just validates a lot of things. So, you know, how much do you trust which type of news media? You know, newspapers, 35% say very little. You know, where it used to be 14% back in 1973. Television news, 43% say very little. That used to be 16% back in 1993.
That's huge.
So
it was only 42% when it used to be 22%. I mean, this is a shitty trend, man, and it doesn't end well.
So I said they took an oath. I stand corrected. It is a creed. So I believe that the public journal is a public trust, that all connected with it are, to the full measure of their responsibility, trustees for the public. That acceptance of a lesser service than the public service is a betrayal of this trust. I believe that no one should write as a journalist what he would not say as a gentleman. That bribery by one's own pocketbook is as much to be avoided as bribery by the pocketbook of another. That individual responsibility may not be escaped by pleading another's instructions or another's dividends. And there's more to it, but those were the two biggest that jumped out to me that said the lack of this, the lack of adherence to their own creed, is the root of why all this is happening in the first place.
Yeah, it's huge. That
or this one, this is the last one I'll read. I believe that clear thinking and clear statement, accuracy and fairness are fundamental to good journalism.
Yeah, that's gone out of the window. Let's face it, in most cases.
I mean, you know, but
all right. How the fuck do we deal with it? What do we do? What do we do?
Start over.
Well, he's kind of not wrong.
another interesting thing. This is
he's kind of not wrong. So here's the problem. The problem lies in we the people not being participants of our system, not holding back to Evans A of the ABCs of information security. It is all about accountability.
Hang on,
We have dodged
whoa.
ours.
Have you seen this picture?
Yes.
The Trump Twitter.
Does it scare you yet?
Oh,
I mean, this is truth, right? And so what's the right thing to do as somebody who's discerning, as somebody who's fact driven, somebody who uses left brain? What I would do, even though this was done by Harvard, go validate this shit as much as you can, right? I don't take any information, even information. I mean, I was actually talking to my management team today, the president of FR Secure, John Harmon. We had a good discussion today, and I was telling him about, this thing, right? This disinformation between data and information, the difference between the two. Now, what I get from John Harmon, my president, on a regular basis, is information, his interpretation of the data that he relies on to run the company, right? Now, I know that he has the data. I don't go and validate the data myself because I trust John Harmon, right? So if you're going to take information and consume information, make sure you fucking trust them. What have they done to earn your trust? Have they proven themselves? Do they maintain that trust with you? So in this case, Harvard, if I'm looking at this, Harvard, for the most, for most purposes like this, I do kind of trust them. So I'm not going to spend my time to validate this information. I'm going to take it at face value. And same with Gallup. That's why I showed the Gallup. Because Gallup, I know, to be pretty trustworthy. But if this came from MSNBC, no, I'm going to validate this. Or if it came from Fox News, and I'm even a conservative, right? So Fox News is a regular visit for me, but I don't believe all the shit that comes out of Fox News. Are you kidding me? There's bias. But yeah, Trump's Twitter, he's almost as big as the Washington Post.
It's as near as damn it. I mean, let's face it. It's bigger than everybody else. It's crazy.
It was how the Blues, because Blues and Reds, right? So I was thinking, well, there's some pretty big blue ones there. You know what I mean? The Trump Twitter is the biggest red one. Fox News is, the second one. But you look at Washington Post, CNN, New York Times, NPR, NBC News. Yeah. I don't know. It comes from Harvard, so whatever.
Yeah, you do get to a point sometimes where you've got. I mean, we were talking about this this morning on the Wiser one, which was we don't have time to do all of this. I mean, we don't have time. If I listen to you, at some point, I've got to trust. To your point, I've got to trust what I see. I don't have enough time these days to read those three. Well, let me rephrase this. I don't prioritize enough time to read those three different newspapers or to look at them online. So that's, it's tough. It's, we got to change something. We have to change something. When you say start over, I mean, Fight Club comes to mind. Don't get me wrong.
It may still happen.
It's fucking tempting. But that aside, what do you mean by start over? I mean, how do we start this over? How do we do it properly?
Well, and I was saying that tongue in cheek. Yeah.
Oh, I got no problem with Fight Club. Fight Club was a good idea as far as I'm concerned.
Rule number one of Fight Club, Chris.
That's fair.
No idea. I've been in enough environments from a security perspective. There have been environments that I've walked into where that has been my recommendation. It's so fucked up. You're going to be better off just starting over. when you talk about, isolation, one of the things like Blue Cross Blue Shield was working with one of the big blues on this new adversary obstruction stuff. Right? The NSA originally built this adversary obstruction standard thing. Blue Cross Blue Shield took it and bastardized it and made it their own, right? And so I walk in and I'm like, let's start looking through the environments, figure out how far we are from what the requirements are. And it came to a point where it's like, you're so far away. I think it's cheaper for you to set up a new environment that's built correctly from the beginning and then migrate your shit over to that new environment. It's just, there's too much disruption and work trying to figure out this environment. So if you look at, where do we some serious regulation on, I hate regulation, but I don't know anything that's powerful enough regulation to control how social media is coverage, how is held accountable for the. And I think it's going to be a clusterfuck. I don't think there's an easy answer.
Well, here's what I don't get. So it's 2020. Chris told us earlier, we've got more data now in the last 2 years than, the entire span of humanity plus some. So why can't we have an official source of facts? I remember an encyclopedia that you could not edit. That was, facts were called facts. Facts became facts through a very arduous process of proof. Yes. And that's how it became a fact. You had to have multiple people that knew what the hell they were talking about, stand in a circle and go, yeah, I agree. That's how that works. And somebody else is like, well, I'm not sure, so we should test it. And you know what I mean? Like facts became facts through a process, and then they stayed a fact. And we don't have any process today for that. There's all the rules that kept that shit in check have been pulled back. It's not just the fairness doctrine that was repealed. There were plenty of regulatory things in place that prevented advertisers from behaving certain ways and doing certain things, that prevented, to your point, Evan, about small compromises. I remember the first time I saw a pharmaceutical ad on TV. I wasn't sure what the pill did, but I knew if I took it, my leg would fall off. I'd have diarrhea for the rest of my life, and I'd grow a fifth eyeball. So it's all that little crap. And then my opinion is it's the lack of our participation in government. We have means to amend the Constitution. We have means to hold our elected officials accountable. We have means to get the results that we elected them to produce. It's just, we don't. We go, and now you're in. And then we sit and armchair quarterback with a bunch of garbage we've been fed from, all these garbage sources, because they don't have to cite facts anymore, because it can be a sponsored news story that the recipient doesn't know is not even real. It's a freaking fairy tale. And unfortunately, it's sponsored by, say, China.
Have we just gotten too comfortable, too apathetic, too disenchanted? I mean, why? I mean, yes, there are people in the streets. I mean, let's face it, your neck of the woods has seen lots of people on the streets for an extended period of time, as have a couple of other cities. I'm not sure if much change has happened. I mean, definitely lots of people have voiced a lot of freaking opinions, but I haven't seen a huge amount of change. Not really. A lot of pissed off people. We'll see.
And that's, you and I talked about this. Protest doesn't change anything. So quick history lesson for everyone. The protests of the civil rights movement are not what got schools integrated. That was Brown v. Board of Education. That was a lawsuit. The Jim Crow laws were not repealed because of protests. They were repealed because of counter lawsuits challenging that legislation. So if we, the people, are going to do our damn job, we have to start to do that. So you know what? We should file some lawsuits if we don't like police conduct. We should be filing suits not to disband the police, but to challenge how they manage conduct and to put better protections in place for the managing and checking and balancing of that conduct. There were, used to be citizen accountability boards. Now, through corruption, they didn't do their jobs because nobody was checking in on them because, hey, we appointed Jeff to do it. Jeff was over there doing it. We met him at Rotary Club. He said it was going fine. We never actually checked. Hey, Jeff, can I see one of them reports real quick? That was the job of the journalist. But see, that's not sensational enough for a news story. So the journalists stopped doing their job and investigating and digging into. Can you imagine if Watergate happened now?
Well, people, it would, I mean, if it happened now, I'd be like, oh, well, so be. Seriously, I don't think people would give a shit anymore.
Well,
No. Okay, we had guts. We went to war over weapons that didn't exist.
Says one theory. Another theory says they existed and said property of U.S. government on the side, so we went and got them.
Well,
but
we're not even going to get into that one. Let's not even get into it.
Okay. We're going to skip history. Got it. There was a reason we were sure they had them.
Yeah, no shit. Yeah, because we got the manifest. No.
Wait. We didn't ship those in the 80s. Sorry about that.
Yeah. But I mean, seriously, we have done, I'd argue, we've done worse than Watergate since Watergate. And at this point in time, it's like, yeah.
So how much of it is disinformation fatigue? How much of it is once you know you're being lied to by the trusted source, how much of that is we're now just so fatigued that we just don't care because we can't believe and we don't know what to think? And because that, to pull on Evan's point about it, China driving this, I have no doubt that China, Russia, North Korea, and Venezuela, and Germany, and the UK, and anyone else that stands to benefit from poking us back for shit we've done to them. We say Germany's our friend, but are they? So it's just, and Evan, great point in the chat. It's the speed at which we're, and that I talked about that earlier. It's the speed at which we're trying to process all this huge mega information, this life impacting information. And every 5 minutes I'm getting hit with another big thing. I mean, for God's sakes, people, they announced space aliens were real this year and none of y'all seem to notice. Nobody seemed to notice.
Okay, back to there we go. So perfect example of this one. Watergate, holy shit, we need to roast, we need dough. We need to turn the country upside down. Aliens exist. Fuck it. What did Trump tweet today?
Yeah. They're putting together a cache of documents that will blow your mind, going all the way back to Blue Book and unredacting the redacted.
Ooh.
But that's not a news story.
Yeah, and that's, and I wonder if that is some of it. And it's actually always interesting. I always remember we always used to wait, having done some of this disinformation stuff over the years, we used to wait until there was a crest because we had to disclose certain things. So we'd wait there till there was a crest over here. And then we'd be like, oh, oops, we did this too. And it would just get lost.
Yep.
It was amazing. This is why the alien thing just cracked me up.
Favorite place to find recently declassified information of spooky levels is the back page of a local newspaper.
Yeah, pretty much.
It met the legal definition of a public disclosure.
Yep. Oh, God, what a world we live in. All right, I go back to this. Yeah. How do we fix this? I mean, I got no problem. I have no problem. Well, actually,
put the rules and the governors back on. That's all. We fixed this before. We just need to go backwards a few steps and put the freaking governors of rules of engagement. Hey, sorry, journalist, you can't just fucking spout that out.
But I'm a journalist with this. I can be a journalist with this. You're not going to put a rule on me. I'm one of a million people in this country that is a influencer. Fuck you and your rules. How are you gonna validate me?
Evan, you were trying to say something.
Yeah. So there's something that makes you, me, Ryan, and others less susceptible to disinformation. We need to figure out exactly what that is, replicate it as much as possible, or put systems and processes in place that does it for people if they can't do it themselves. That's what we need to do. What is it? Is it discernment? Is it the fact that we're skeptics in general? Is it the fact that we're
metacognition,
as opposed to information driven? You need to replicate, just like you fight a virus.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
Well, and it is the skepticism.
Right. Yeah.
It's the critical thinking.
Yeah, it's more than that. Because I tell you now, I'll go out to the middle of Kansas, I'll find a bunch of fucking skeptics. I'll find a bunch of skeptics.
With critical thinking?
No, and that's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think
I can find skeptical people too, but
don't have to.
I mean, I told you the story about the guy that was skeptical about a second bag of chemo.
And so I think it's a combination. I don't want people to go through the same freaking life stuff that we've gone through to get to this.
No, really, you can skip it. It's cool.
Yeah.
I'll mail you the t-shirt whenever Chris gets them done.
No shit. Oh, ooh. Sorry.
Head
Squirrels
jab
for a
you.
minute. No. Fucking squirrels for a minute. Okay, so you're gonna love this. We can't use. Did I tell you what the shield was going to be on the front?
Mm-mm.
Oh, so the t-shirt. I'm spoiling it a bit, but I'm not, because there's still a bunch of work. So the t-shirt's front. I hate t-shirts that are only on the front or only on the back. So the t-shirt's going to have a front shield, like a decent shield on it, and a decent sized thing on the back. The front shield, not what we have done, because all I did was give the ideas. They've done all the hard work. What the drawing people have done is they took the flying logo, the Windows flying logo, the toilet seat that used to fly in the old version of Windows with the guy on it with the newspaper. They've redrawn that completely. The guy with the newspaper is now reading Einstein's theory of relativity.
Nice.
Yeah. And there's others, they've got a beard and a bunch of other kind of stuff as well. So, and our logo, the shit show logo as well, and we can use it for other things as well. But the shit show,
Nice.
that part of it, the shield, is literally the flying toilet with Einstein's theory of relativity being held by basically the hillbilly. Yeah. So we're going to have some fun with that. I know you guys have got to say yay or nay, and we can modify it, but we should have that in the next week or so, hopefully. Jen's kicking ass on it. It's freaking awesome. Totally made fun.
I like it. So to Evan's point, I believe, so part of why I believe people are susceptible to misinformation is because of the current way in which information is consumed. And so when we think about, I'm gonna quote a really wise guy, goes by the name of Forrest Gump. Stupid is as stupid does.
Yeah.
Okay. People want convenience, especially in this country, right? So whatever we do, it has to be convenient. And we're learning this in our own industry, right? We have to make it simplified. If we don't make it simplified, then it just doesn't work, and people don't, they don't change. And I think this is the same thing. The other thing I'll say is, if Facebook's going to be the fucking public square, then Facebook needs to be regulated like the public square. If it's going to be the public square, it needs to be regulated like the public square. If that's what we've chosen as a society, we go to Facebook and we say, hey, I know you made the tool and I'm sorry we turned it into the public square, but that's what we did with it. And these are the new rules, or it's cool, somebody else will make one that works just like yours did, but follows the rules.
Well, they currently have the legal exemption, right? They have a liability exemption by law that they can't be held liable for the disinformation that spreads through the network, right?
And I think that should be repealed. I think they should absolutely be held accountable if they're going to be the public square. And boy, let me tell you how quick your post doesn't get posted the second they become liable. They'll be filtering shit so hard. You'll see magical AI will appear the very next day that works 100% of the time. You're laughing, Chris, but you know it's true. Damn well.
Yeah, because it's being, let's face it, the narrow AI is already being used, but it's being used for other purposes. Let's be perfectly honest. I mean, we know it's being used because we're arguing, discussing about the results of it. It's just not been turned. That lens has not been turned, arguably for good. That's probably a better way of putting it.
And they won't be incentivized to do so until there's consequence and penalty, because they're financially incentivized to let the disinformation fly because, to Evan's point earlier, highest bidder.
Yeah. Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right. So,
highest bidder, more clicks, and all the capitalism that goes with it.
And as much as I want to say an Instagram influencer does have some influence, not too many people go to them for their news.
Correct. All right.
They might go to them for what to buy, for shoes or clothes, or, you know,
but not for news.
Generally, for as much as I like Kylie Jenner, I'm not going to go ask her thoughts on how to bring about world peace.
So, world peace. Who makes the rules?
We, the people, do what we were supposed to be doing all along, which is put people in power to help manage that situation, who are held accountable to the rules that the social contract. The problem is now we don't have a social contract because we went iPhone global. Ooh, doesn't even show up. Look at that. Ooh, it's invisible.
Oh, did you see did you see they've put LiDAR on the new iPhone?
Yes, somebody wanted me to goat you on that. I have no clue what the hell purpose that's served. Can't put a fucking headphone jack in it, but you can go ahead and put LiDAR on it. And no charger. So just know that. No charger. When you get your new iPhone 12, the charger's separate.
Yeah, you can pay extra for it.
But, I think it goes back to we the people. And if we the people are going to have a global world, well, we have a mechanism for that too. It's called the UN. So let's get together. Let's decide the rules. Well, or make a new mechanism. Either way, the Wild West, unregulated. If this is the life we now live, I don't want to I don't want to live in a lawless world. And I'm currently living in a lawless world. Really, the only digital crime they get anybody for these days is kiddie porn and ransomware. Well, misinformation.
Unfortunately, let's face it.
Well, right. And that's a volume game. You know that. It's not that they don't know. They know. Trust me. You open the picture, they know.
Yeah.
It's a volume game. It's, can I get you today or do I got to wait 6 months? And how big of a threat are you? Because I got to weigh you against 5 million other sickos.
Yep.
So, but the point I'm making, and I think Evan was making this point as well. Okay, fine. If we need a new system, we do. We need a new system. We need to agree on what are the rules for this new digital public square. And if the media gets to play on both sides of the fence, they need to be held accountable to their creed.
Oh, right?
Buddy.
Or says he's not interested.
And if it is truly nation states doing it, well, we have laws for that too already.
Yeah.
So it's time to enforce them. That's called espionage. It's a crime.
There's evidence that they are.
I know. But the problem is when you start chasing that thread, it starts going places that have big buckets of money attached to it, and then magically the thread dies.
Big buckets of money.
Big buckets of money.
So, I mean, okay, let's go back to Facebook. We put rules in place. We the people, the problem is, we the people. So America is 4% of the global population, give or take a few. We the people are in the minority in the US. Facebook is a global phenomenon. Let's be perfectly honest.
But it's an American company, so we the people get to make the decision.
Is it anymore?
It is.
Is it anymore? No, yes. I say that the U.S. So this, I'm going to play.
Hold on. Google tells me the corporate headquarters of Facebook are located within the boundaries of the United States of America, and therefore, given the current legal system, are governed by the laws. And if you read their license agreement, when you clicked yes, you consented to be bound by and governed by the laws of the United States of America. So yes, we the people who created this shitstorm need to be responsible for managing this shitstorm.
But that's okay. So to go with that devil's advocate,
or at least make them pay their taxes. At the very least, can they pay their fair share so we can fund our own misinformation campaigns for the opposite?
I'm with you on that one. We'll get Apple to actually stump up some cash as well.
And you know the opposite of misinformation is the truth, right?
Yeah. Oh man. So this is where it gets interesting because again, that newspaper that you had 20, 30 years ago, literally for the most part stayed within the boundaries of the US with some exceptions, embassies and other things. But the media that we have that the US puts out, let's face it, is in everybody's hands. And it's not in everybody's interest to fix it.
Right.
There's only 4% of the world's population that cares about fixing this shit. 96% of the world's population is sitting back with their feet up going, hey, this is fun. Let's watch this shit roast.
Well, watching Rome burn at a distance is always entertaining.
And that's where it gets really freaking interesting. Because again, to me, it's we the people. You're right. It's a U.S. entity, but
yeah, well, Nike's a global phenomenon too, but that's a U.S. company. Coca-Cola is a global phenomenon, but it's a U.S. company. So if we're going to be the ones that made the mess,
yeah, we should be the ones that fix it.
Right. And I'm not saying we go full China, because that's a separate issue. They have their social media very under control because your uncle is going to come up missing.
It's wonderfully. It's a splendid example of an efficient media system.
Yes.
If you like your bars on the inside.
But so I'm not saying we go that route, but I think there is a level of accountability to say, okay, here's the deal. This is truly the public square. This is where journalists are getting their source information from. They're watching a video. They're citing a video. How did they verify that? Did they do digital forensics on that video? Are they sure that video that they just parroted back as factually accurate and truthful truly is? Because see, in the old days, they went to the convenience store and they said, hey, Mr. Man, can I get that VHS tape out of the VCR connected directly to the camera that I can see? Right. And now it's, well, I just scraped it.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think scraping is showing due diligence and due care as a journalist.
This day and age, not with the amount of, we deal with that stuff all the time. Let's face it. I don't know. It's an interesting one. I like the idea of putting, but then so that's an anti-capitalist type of movement when you think about it, because what you're now doing, you're taking,
it's not though. No, because it's about safety. It's about safety, Chris. So that's like telling me the USDA is anti-capitalist.
How often is safety? How many people does it take to die before safety trumps over money? Let's ask Boeing that question, shall we?
Well, there's another company you could ask that question of, and they did the math and came up with a number.
Oh yeah, with a bunch of them did. We've had that conversation as well.
There is a number. There is a number. Here's the thing though. We have regulated many things before to great degrees of success, to quite capital, that are not anti-capitalist. A fucking free-for-all the capitalism doesn't automatically mean free-for-all. It just doesn't. Okay. We regulate the oil and gas industries. We regulate the airlines. We regulate the trains. We regulate the automotive industry. We regulate, pretty sure the CEO of Delta Airlines is doing just fine, pandemic or not. Yeah. So I think there's plenty enough money. And yes, I get that we're going to be pissing on the leg of the money tree, which will upset people, but you can still have a highly commercialized, highly successful Facebook, if you will, just to pick on them. Here you go. Here's another one from the Journalist Creed. I believe that advertising, news, and editorial columns should alike serve the best interest of the readers, that a single standard of helpful truth and cleanness should prevail for all, and that the supreme test of good journalism is the measure of its public service.
That sounds like that came out of the 40s or 50s.
Okay. Well, actually, it came out in 1914.
Oh, Even more civilized. Yeah.
Okay. So, I think we can go back to a few of those things. I think we can have some guidelines around behavior in our digital society. We did it in the physical world. We created all kinds of guidelines for behavior from companies, behavior from citizens. What do governments do? They govern. What is governing? Well, it's the managing of behavior of populations. That's what governing is. Why do laws exist? To manage and control behavior, right? Don't do this. And if you do this, there's a penalty for it. So I think, we have to go there. And I know it's unfortunate. People hate laws and they hate regulation and criminals don't follow laws, blah, blah, blah. I get it. If you want to do business in this country, it's really simple. Pay your fair share and don't contribute to the degradation of our society. And if we are going to keep going the way we're going, then we need to legalize all the drugs and just be done with it. And just go full balls to the wall. Capitalism reigns supreme. And I will vote for President Macchio starting this coming November. Okay. And let's just do it. Let's just do it. All right. And now the president will change the rules. Presidents can only be between the ages of 21 and 35. And the one that comes out of the cage alive wins.
So we're putting some formalities around Hillbilly Hit Squad, because it's been sitting behind the scenes for a number of years. And because of some of the stuff we're doing, we're like, we've got to formalize this damn thing. So Jesse, Sweet Brett, and I sat down and we're like, all right, we got to get a lawyer involved, but we're going to give them the guidelines. And one of the guidelines was quite simple. If we have an argument and we can't figure shit out, it's pistols at dawn. End of discussion. And he's like, I can't write that up. I'm like, you figure out how to write that up in such a way that is the overarching resolution mechanism. And he's like, okay. And we basically said, like, articles of incorporation, no more than a dozen pages. Shit doesn't need to be complicated.
Right.
So we've gone back to that route. We're like, if we can't get this fucking shit figured out, it's freaking back to pistols at dawn. Seriously.
Yeah.
It worked before. I'm just done with this shit.
But I do think, and Evan made an interesting point in the chat there about an accountability bill. Well, where is the accountability? And I think part of it is new legislation, but I also think part of it is we have to remind ourselves of the legislation we already have to hold everybody we're dealing with right now accountable. The fact that Senate hearing, which was supposed to be about holding them accountable, turned into a tech support session.
Yeah, it's just beggars belief, absolute beggars belief.
I mean, and then it just went away. See, they appease the public because the sabers rattling around, antitrust, big tech. Now we went from too big to fail to too complex to fail.
Separate and fail, yeah.
Right, or too complex to be broken up. There was a guy by the name of JP Morgan, didn't like what happened to him, but it happened. And he still made a ton of money.
Oh, yeah.
So, I don't know that breaking them up is necessarily the right answer, but man, let's get real honest about what they own, what they control, what our rights are or are not in that space. And then we have to decide, is that our public forum? And I think we've already made that decision. I think that horse is out of the barn.
But I think also, so I'll go back to the human. I think we need, whether you want to call it a bill or whether you want to call it something, we need something that every single human being, again, people have died for you to have the right to vote. Make it fucking count.
Yeah.
Which means you educate yourself, you enlighten yourself, you do the necessary due diligence, because it's all very well putting all the tools in place. To your point, we can go beat the crap out of Facebook and everybody else and go get your shit together. But if we can't make that horse not just go to the well, and we've got to make it drink, that's the other part of it. It's going to take both parties have got to come together. Everybody's got to be willing to actually come in and go, hey, I'll give you the right information. And by the way, it's validated information, but your fucking butt ugly ass has got to actually read some of this shit to help educate yourself. And then you know what? You can go, I don't care how you vote, as long as you've done it in an educated way.
Yeah, and people don't, first world problems, right? That's one of the other issues that'll be another episode for another day. But, we get so distracted by our first world problems.
Oh, well, Evan said it. I mean, Evan said it right. He's like, how many people don't have a roof over their head or don't have clean water? I mean, I feel guilty. Yeah. I run the tap to get warm water for the dogs to put in their bowls. And I look at that, I'm like, shit, I'm probably running down a couple of gallons of water. And that's a couple of gallons more water than billions of people actually have on a daily, weekly, monthly basis.
Yeah.
We're lucky. No two ways about it. But we don't.
And I think in some of that, we've become complacent.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. All right. My bum's getting numb. I'm sitting on the wooden floor.
Yeah. All right, Evan, any last things of wisdom to add to tonight's show?
Yeah, always, man. No, I loved it. It was a joy to listen to you guys talk, man. I'm a left brain guy. And so when left brain rules, man, I was giddy, right? So many thoughts, so many things. The fact of the matter is, you, me, Chris, everybody listening, you only get one shot at this. Mm-hmm. Are you gonna make a fucking difference or not? I choose to make a difference. I'm gonna do whatever I can to make a difference. It's not okay to be fighting my brothers and sisters. These are my brothers and sisters. We live in the same country. We share the same everything, right? The same infrastructure, the same communications, the same shit. I'm tired of fighting people. Put your fucking, put your shit down and fight where the fight needs to be fought. And where the fight needs to be fought is Capitol Hill. Right? There's no accountability. You and I don't have a voice. We're tricked into thinking that we do. Right? Your vote does matter. So go out and vote, please. You need to do that. That's part of your civic duty. If you're a citizen of this country and you don't vote, well, then you don't have any right to bitch. But what are we going to do to mobilize? How are we going to start working together to solve problems? We're not going to solve problems by destroying our cities. We're not going to solve problems by killing each other. We're going to solve problems by sitting down, going at where the problem actually is. And where the problem is the people who run this country don't represent us, right? And it's not just the president, right? It's the Senate. It's the House of Representatives. Their number one job isn't to represent us. That's the lie. Their number one job is to get reelected. Period. And I did a study on this. I never published it. I had a discussion once with a guy named Jim Ramstad. He was our U.S. representative here in the state of Minnesota. And I asked him that question. I go, hey, what's your number one job? What's your number one priority? Thinking that it was going to be, well, it's to represent you. But that's not what he said. He was honest with me. He said it's to get reelected. And I came away from that being so fucking, just destroyed. I'm like, no, that's wrong. You're supposed to represent me. You're supposed to be my voice. We need to go back and figure out how we're going to hold our representatives, our elected officials accountable. And the only way we're going to affect any change, the only way we're going to fight against lobbyists, the only way we're going to fight against tax is if we work together. They don't want us to work together. Our adversaries overseas don't want us to work together. Well, fuck it. We need to work together. I'm tired of it. We need to figure out what our common ground is, work together, change this system, and then if you're actually going to represent me on Capitol Hill, then I can create laws and regulations to hold big tech responsible for how they're using that platform to spread disinformation. Right? So I don't know how we do it exactly, but that's the thing. That's the goal. We need to figure out, maybe we make some kind of movement go viral. I don't know. But the concept, the alternative is definitely mutual destruction. It's civil. You know where this fucking thing leads. We're logical people. We're left brain people. Play it out. Where does it go?
Yeah, it doesn't go anywhere good. That's for damn sure.
Yeah, it doesn't end well. Let's put it that way.
No, and the sad part is the majority of us are all on the same page. The majority of us all want the same basic things. We get wrapped around the axle when some firebrand politician starts poking at a particular hot button topic. I mean, why is it always goes back to the same three too? It's always guns, abortion, and welfare programs. Those are always the three, right? Because that's right, we're on the same page with just about everything else. Most of us are pro clean drinking water. I haven't met too many people that are anti clean drinking water, unless they own a mine or a
yeah, exactly.
or an oil well. We got to get back to that. I'm with Evan. We got to get back to finding the common ground, and the common ground is 90% of the ground we stand on. We need to start remembering that. We really aren't that different.
Again, and I want to remind you, what's the alternative? Play it out.
I'm watching it play out. I'm watching it play out every day. I've seen the alternative. I saw this coming a few years ago when the divisiveness really started kicking into gear. This is even before the election. There was a growing divisiveness within the media, within the, this party's doing it that way, and this part, and that started in the last 2 years of Obama's term. I really saw an increase.
Well, the fact of the matter is, man, we have this crazy ass mission, right? We're security people. We have this crazy ass mission to fix the fucking industry. And I've been asked 1,000 times over the 12 years since we started this mission, do you think you're going to do it? And I'm like, I don't fucking care. I'm going to die trying.
Yeah.
I don't get another shot at this. So I'm going to die trying to love my friends, to love, others, and try to change this fucking thing, because it's not okay. So you're going to sit there and just be a consumer and keep being manipulated, or you're going to stand up and start being like, no, fuck this. I want part of the solution. And part of the solution is never destruction. It's construction. So get that through your head. Blowing shit up, riding, tearing down. That isn't how you create solutions. Creating solutions is creating. It's not destroying. Right? Those things aren't necessarily bad things. But you gotta start working on solutions. Sorry, man.
Well, I think. Well, no, you're absolutely right, and it starts with. So I'm going to reiterate my closing statement: vote. If you don't like party one or party two, then don't vote for either. There are 1,200 people that have thrown their hat in the ring for president this year, people. And you don't like any of those? Shit, vote for us, whatever. But get there and do your duty, right? Now, maybe don't throw your vote away. Maybe do some research and do some thinking about, but there are other options. There's actually a candidate that I really like on the basis of this alone. He talked about what he was going to do, talked about how he was going to do it, and he didn't tear down the other people. Those three things alone already have him near and dear to my heart, because he talked about what he was going to do, how he was going to do it, and he didn't tear anybody else down in the process.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'd be any good or not, but it's got to beat the shit out of what I saw on the debate stage.
Yeah, no shit.
And unfortunately, I know people that aren't going to vote because they can't vote for the one person they want to for one reason or another, and they don't want to vote for the other person for one reason or another. And I'm like, then don't vote for either of the two of them. Take a look at this third option. Take a look at, something. So I don't know. It's gonna, I guess all I have for you guys is please vote. Please take time to talk to that relative that frustrates you, that isn't thinking the right way, or whatever. Take time to talk to them anyways. Talk to your family. Make sure they're voting. Don't just assume. Check with people. Oh, and lastly, don't be afraid to vote now. Go ahead and vote early. You can do it in person. You can do it over the mail. Get your vote in, you know, or stand in line for 19 and a half hours. Your choice, but either way.
Fucking do it. I mean,
what do you got first, Chris?
I'll add on to the top of that. I mean, remember, I'm the one with a funny accent in this country. So I have, but I don't have skin in the game, for want of a better way of putting it. For me, there are 300-ish million people in this country, or however the hell many of you buggers can actually vote. You've got the right, fucking use it. There are no excuses. And not only are there no excuses, you've had people that have died for your ability to fucking vote. Whether you think it counts, whether you don't think it counts, you know what, get the fuck out and vote. Because here's, to use Evan's point, if you don't vote and you have the ability to, for the next 4 years, you shut the fuck up. You don't repost anything from either candidate. You don't comment on anything from either candidate. You don't say one is good, one is bad. You have no fucking right to do that because you didn't take the chance that you had. End of discussion.
Agreed. All right, we got a couple more of these before the day. So just so you guys know, we're sticking with this one for a couple of episodes. This is, at least in my lifetime, the most important political pivotal moment I've ever experienced. And I would venture to say that's probably true for most Americans. So we're going to keep doing this because it's that important. We'll continue to try to find lively ways to tear this stuff apart. And I don't know who's up. I'm on deck next week, right?
Yeah, I think you're up next.
All right. Yeah. So within this theme, I'll come up with something within this theme.
I think I know what I'm going to do. I'm going back after Boston Tea Party. Screw you all. I got the one after you, the one right before the election. Fuck all of you. You're going to go back to, you're going back to Queenie. You're getting Queenie because you all can't look after yourselves. I think that's going to be mine. Fuck you when you vote. It's one person, one vote. I have the vote. Queenie's coming in.
I just want you guys to know, I told the IRS no taxation without representation, and I don't feel represented, so fuck your taxes. And you know what they said? Pay your taxes or go to jail. So, just saying, you know. I tried that shit.
Dude, you know I'll break you out.
Look, dude. IRS, Chris's little hoodie club, and the game wardens just don't fuck around. It's never a good idea.
Yeah, there's some good people not to piss off in this world.
They got superpowers, man. People don't realize the power they actually have. They got magic superpowers when it comes to taking your shit and taking you to jail.
Well, and hey, one last thing before we close this out, man. To give people the benefit of the doubt and default to love. And you can't go wrong.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that one. That's a good one.
It sounds corny as hell, but it's 100% true, man. You cannot be bashing somebody else and just destroy their property when you love them. So go there.
Yep.
Absolutely.
All right. I am going to go see if I can find a bottle of wine because it's warm in this place. And I'm going to go
in here I thought you'd find a coil of copper wire and some aluminum tube and get that internet working, but you know.
Oh, I've given up on that shit. Yes, I know where the internet is, and I'm sitting in the room closest to it. That's about as good as I get. Gonna go back to the mini apartment that apparently we have in this hotel, and be completely internet free.
I like it. Well, you guys have a good night as always. I love you guys. This is a blast.
Love you guys too. Take care, definitely.
And next week maybe I'll try helium.
Awesome. All right.
All right, guys. Have a good one, everybody.
You too. Take care, everybody online as well. Love you guys. Take care.
Bye.